former Goldman Sachs CEO addressed Congress today, the new Congress. Apparently it was this was supposed to be an address in order to kind of brief them on issues and things that are important and all this other stuff. And so there was a panel that was essentially brought in by lobbyists in order to explain them on the way things worked. This is how things work in Washington. Now, of these, there were four, essentially, you could say corporate type CEOs and lobbyists, and 0 people representing labor. And this was supposed to be some kind of bipartisan get together. Ocasio-Cortez pulled the covers back on this, and she starts tweeting about some of the stuff that's taking place and some of the stuff that was said. Something very specific. The CEO, former CEO of Goldman Sachs, comes out and tells them, you guys are way over your heads. You don't know how things work. That is an amazing thing to hear. Now, I've made this point before with, what is his name? Klobuchar with no neck, the Democratic donor, the billionaire that donates money to Democrats, that says, if you bring up income inequality, meaning saying this term billionaire, I will shut my purse strings. Why do you think he's saying he'll shut his purse strings? He's saying he's shut his purse strings because there is association between money and influence in the political space. Same thing with Nancy Pelosi. When the millionaires and billionaires released that letter saying you, and the people comes back and says, look, if you don't pass this tax cut, you don't call us back. Now, again, the only reason they would say that is if money has a connection between influence in the political space. That sounds great for billionaires and millionaires, but what about us? The people who are supposed to be in the political space are supposed to be representing us. The reason why we go and make our vote is supposedly because the vote is the determining factor on how we want to move our society forward. But instead, we lavish, or praise is lavished on people who are buying politicians. The media, full of millionaires, would turn around and say, this guy is going to raise a ton of cash. And they lavish praise on him. And they say, hey, his electability is somehow associated with the amount of money he can be bribed with. I find that to be an amazing thing that we are okay with that. Beyond being okay with that, 90% of the people who are running in these elections decide with the most cash wins. The media is not saying to lavish praise on people in that way. If 90% of the people who are running with the most cash wins, then yeah, you lavish praise on the side with the most cash because 90% of the time that person is going to win. The trend may not necessarily be true in the presidential part, but definitely in the other races throughout the country. This gets to a basic point. If the side with the most cash wins, then it is all incentive in the world for the candidate to focus on maxing out their cash. Well, if they're maxing out their cash, who's giving them the cash? 75% of the times of congressmen are spent begging for cash. Why is this okay? Why are you okay with this in your political space? Betsy DeVos gives Trump a ton of money to his campaign, and he puts her in a political, or give the Republican Party a ton of money for their political campaign, millions of dollars, hundreds of millions, if I'm not mistaken. And he puts these people in these different spaces and political positions based on essentially, the degree to which they bribed him. Why are you okay with this? I understand why a top 1% would be okay with this. But the majority of this country is not the top 1%. The overwhelming majority of the country doesn't even have $500 where they can scrounge together in order to pay a car note if they had a car, if they got hit with that bill, or if some kind of off bill that they weren't necessarily accommodating for. Many of the people are on a hamster wheel, especially if you're talking about the youth, beaten down by college loan debt because their forebears allowed a predatory system where in order for them to get some level of degree, they had to get a bank loan that was going to haunt them for the rest of their life, let alone medical bills. And this was after Obamacare, the utopian idea that you can maintain health insurance companies, these good giveaway to the health insurance companies under the guise of somehow providing some kind of great medical treatment or some kind of medical access. The point of healthcare is not access to insurance companies. The point of healthcare is good, low-quality healthcare. Low-cost healthcare. My point is this. Why are we okay, from the standpoint of us, with our political class being openly bribed. We all know that's what's taking place. The majority of Americans already know it. Why are we okay with this? Is this not a good point of order to prevent this in the political system? You have dollars or pitchforks. And is it not time to have more pitchforks in the political process to put a stop to this shit? The idea that the CEO, this uber millionaire, is looking at the elected representative snarling. You don't know how it works here. You don't know how it works here. How does it work here? I suspect they do know that people are being bribed, which is why they're talking about primarying these other political opponents. Take a look at this. Right here. Right now, freshman members of Congress are at a bipartisan orientation with briefings on issues. Invited panelists offer insight to inform new Congress members' views as they prepare to legislate. The number of corporate CEOs we've listened to, 4. The number of labor leaders, 0. 0. You have dollars or pitchforks. There are no pitchforks. A bipartisan congressional orientation is co-hosted by a corporate lobbyist group. Other members have quietly expressed concerns to me that wasn't told to us in advance. It wasn't told because it's normal as normal could be from the standpoint of interacting in Washington. Lobbyists are here. Goldman Sachs is here. Where's labor activists, frontline community leaders? They're somewhere else, clearly. She's pulling the cover back on the seedy details of Washington. This is how it works. This is how it works. Keep saying you have dollars or you have pitchforks. There are no pitchforks, but there are a lot of dollars. The problem is that the majority of Americans don't have those dollars. 95% of the wealth was given to the top 1% in the last administration, and people are shocked as shit that Donald Trump got elected when people's situation wasn't necessarily getting better under a Democratic president that set itself on fire in order to protect these exact same people who are out there telling these congressmen that you don't know how it works. You're way over your heads. Take a look at this part. This is another part. Right here. Gary Cohen, former CEO of Goldman Sachs, addressing a new members of Congress today. You guys are way over your heads. You don't know how the game is played. Then she, gets a little rough here. No, Gary, you don't know what's coming. A revolution in Congress that put people over profits. Show me, don't tell me. Show me, don't tell me. Because I got to be honest, I don't believe that your party backing Nancy Pelosi in this is doing just that. She is trying to push through a bill that is going to kneecap anything and everything that you guys ran on from the standpoint of Medicare or Green New Deal. All of that stuff is going to be put the kibosh on by corporate Democrats. Show me, don't tell me that people are going to be put over profits. Don't tell me, show me. The Democrats say this shit all the time. Show me. I believe it when I see it. But that's how the game is played in Washington. Gary Cohen, former CEO, snarling. You don't know how the game is played. The problem is we all know how the game is played, and we know this runs on cash, and that needs to stop. I understand why top 1%, the side with all of the cash, would want that to take place and want it to be that way because you can essentially control the political space based on the cash that you donate to the political space. I'm saying from the standpoint of everybody else, the 99%, why is that allowed to be true? People are more important than profits. And the political space, and the point of the political space is for your vote to make a determining factor in how we run our affairs. The affairs of this nation should be run at the behest of the 99% of this nation, not at the behest of the 1%. What is in the interest of the 1% is not necessarily in the interest of individuals. You have a bunch of millionaires who are on media. You have a bunch of millionaires who are in the political space, and all of them create a certain reality where the capitalist is the greatest fucking thing on the planet, and this wealth, the idea that this person has $1 billion is not seen as a failure in the society itself, but is seen as some kind of virtue. That needs to change. We are the point. We're the point, not them. This political space needs to be receptive to us. Full stop. And I'll end it here. I'm not going to keep this one longer. All right. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support the PayPal or Patreon. Thanks all.